Avatar: The Last Airbender was literally perfect. You don't need me to tell you that. Is there anyone who doesn't think it's perfect? Fair. Give me their exact address and IP address. What can I possibly say about the series that hasn't already been said? Oh, that's right. I don't like Qatar. And no, it's not because of like my mother is dead sort of stuff. People know this about me. I really hate self-righteous characters. I hate characters that like will want to do something and then to get mad at everyone else, call them terrible people because they don't want to do that thing. And then they go off and do the thing on their own, mess up everything, get bailed out by everyone. And then like the main characters for some reason are like, you're right. Even though that messed up everything, we should have gone with your way. That was the right thing to do. And they're like, I'm glad you're finally maturing and seeing things my way. I hate those types of things. Like, the Painted Lady is worse than the Great Divide. I'm sorry. At least the Great Divide didn't make me actively angry. Overall, she's a decent character. I just hated her more than anyone else. Iroh and Zuko are the best characters. That's not a hot take at all. I really like Aang. I'm glad that they made Aang, like, have, like, a very definable personality. Show that, like, their cultures are the main source of their strengths and flaws. And, like, Aang is very unique because he's the only airbender in The Last Airbender, so it feels like he's, you know, bringing along his culture to the rest of the world. The bending is amazing. As someone who like does martial arts and studies martial arts, I really appreciate how like clearly they knew what they were doing when they compared things to like Northern Shaolin Kung Fu and all that type of stuff. You can even tell that they worked with actual martial artists because like you wouldn't be able to glean the correct forms and everything from a book. You'd only be able to know that that's the correct form if you've been like properly trained or shown by a professional, and they knew what the proper form was. And you know, they didn't just watch a bunch of kung fu movies or anything because it's super faithful to like the martial arts that each of the bending styles is based on. They also use bending in like super creative ways consistently. It's crazy. They somehow do this thing where like it's like a Syndrome from Incredibles thing where it's like, and when every bending style is OP, none will be. Every time they introduce a new aspect of each bending type, you're not like, oh no, that's totally broken. You're always just like, oh well, then the opponent could just do this more broken thing, and then this is more broken thing, and like it's like it never ruins itself. I think it's probably like the best magic system in anything ever. I don't know if people agree that it's magic. I would say by like all definitions, that's magic. I really like how the show is like centered around this one thing, which is like getting to Ozai and mastering all the elements and stuff. But like that's like not even really what the show ends up being about. The show is basically just a giant excuse to have this like big long journey that isn't that focused on the actual goal, so we can explore this great world and get to know all these amazing characters. We barely spend any time with Ozai whatsoever, and it doesn't suffer at all for that. Once you realize that the story really never was about Ozai versus Aang, it becomes so much better. Not to mention they somehow made Ozai, which is like one of the most one-dimensional villains of all time, feel like it's such a cool event when Aang finally fights him. Best episode was Tales of Ba Sing Se. Best moment probably Leaves from the Vine. Either that or Zuko versus Azula, or Zuko's telling off Ozai. There's so many good moments in this show. I wish Aang wasn't in charge of Appa so he could just start eating everyone. Yeah, start to finish, aside from some things that like personally annoyed me, objectively it's like a perfect series. Also Azula, best girl.